Now that we've looked at some of the basic modeling tools, let's take a little bit of time to put these into practice by creating some things from scratch using those specific tools and see how you can combine them in order to get the kind of things that you need for your modeling process. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with this basic sphere here. It's just a polygonal sphere, and I'm going to kind of cut it apart, attach some pieces to it, and just generally make it something a little bit different, starting with just this simple sphere. So first, I'm going to start by just taking the entire thing and rotating it so it's facing down the z-axis here. Now I could have created it this way, but I wanted to show that you can very easily adjust things if you start things off not quite exactly the way you want them. So let's say I've got this down here, and now I'm going to take the whole thing and I'm going to change my action center back to automatic, and I'm just going to slide this over to there. And now what I want to do is I actually want to have this same piece on both sides, and I want to create my model in a mirrored workflow. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually mirror this, and we're going to look at some duplication tools here shortly, but just for now what I'm going to do is just use the simple mirror tool. So just click on that, or Shift V is the hotkey, and that's one that you'll probably use fairly frequently, so probably one of those hotkeys that you will want to remember. And I want to mirror this on the x-axis, which is what I just slid it over away from, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit apply. So now I have that same sphere on both sides, but if I click on one of these, you'll see that I'm really only working with one of them still. So what I'm going to do is turn on my symmetry. So if I click there, it will turn on symmetry, and if I hold the Option or the Alt key and click on that, I will get options here. So there are some different things you can do with symmetry, and I'm just going to go with the very basic version of symmetry, which is just if a vertex or a edge or a polygon exists on one side of the given axis, x, y, or z, and you manipulate it, then it will do the same thing to that same polygon or that same vertex or same edge on the other side. Now sometimes things won't align perfectly, and you'll still want to work in symmetry, in which case you can turn on topology, which will just check and see if your polygons are in topologically the same place. So even if they aren't in the same axes, in the same positions, x, y, z, and they're not exactly aligned on either side, it will still allow you to work with that symmetry. So I have everything exactly on both sides here, so I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm just going to go with the regular X-based symmetry. And now with that, you can see that if I select this loop here, it actually selects the loop on the other side. So I'm just going to hold Shift and the up arrow until I get to halfway around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and paste these and then just move them down. So just Control X, Control V, and now if I double click on one, you'll see it's actually it's not attached to the back end anymore. So what I'm going to do here in the side view is I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it back and up a little bit. All right, so now what I have is these two separate pieces that I want to join together, and to do this we're going to look at the bridge tool, which is kind of something akin to the edge extend tool or even the bevel tool, but what it does, it will attach two separate pieces of geometry. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to get an entire loop of edges there on the back end, or I guess that's the front end, and then another one on the back end. And since I'm in symmetry, this will happen on both sides. And then I'm going to go up to Basic and choose the Bridge tool. All right, so now with the bridge tool active, I will see that we have a few options here. And the first one is the number of segments. That's going to be how many rows of edges or polygons it will take to connect the individual pieces. I'm going to start by turning that down to 0, which just means one span of polygons across the entire thing. We have a number of twists, and we'll see what that does here in a moment, but basically it takes things so that they're not exactly straight, and it will offset the connection. Then there is a mode, which just is how the attachment is interpolated, which won't do anything with the segment set to 0, but as we increase that, we'll see what goes on there. And then there are some other options down here, which we'll get into a little bit more when we're working on these in different procedures. But for now, you can know that you can choose to keep or remove any source polygons. So if you have, say, one polygon on one side and another polygon on the other side, you can attach them, and you can either remove the polygon that was existing, or you can leave it there. You can flip the polygons so that they're facing another direction. So in this case, they're going to face the same direction as the attached polygons, which is what we want, so we won't have to worry about that. And we can also choose to reverse the direction, which is something that you'll commonly use if you use the bridge tool, which I'm actually going to go ahead and click and do right now. If things look almost like they're twisted and inverted, so that say things on this side are attaching to that side. Usually you can quickly remedy that by clicking on the reverse direction button. And then there's auto connection, which is what we're seeing right now, and continuous bridge, which will just create a bridge that continues across the entire span. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to actually click and hold and then drag to the right. You'll see we'll increase the number of spans across here. So we're getting, right now we're looking at the curved interpolation, which means that from this one it's going out and then curving towards the middle point. And this one, same thing, goes out and then curves towards the middle point. Now if I change that to linear, we'll get just a straight line. And if I change that to smooth, we'll see that they actually kind of bulge out a little bit, and that's based off of the fact that there is an incoming curve with the way that these polygons fit. And you can see it a bit more in the top view, that we get more of a kind of capsule shape and it isn't quite straight on the sides. And that's because it's interpolating not just where the edge is coming from and where it's attaching to, but it's also taking the incoming polygons and it's creating an interpolation based off of that. So I liked curves, so I'm going to go back to that. We get nice straight sides, but then we also get a kind of a nice zigzag from the side view. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and drop the tool, and I want to show there is a bit of a limitation with this tool when you're using symmetry. So if I go ahead and just select a few polygons here, and let's say I want to attach those together, and I turn on the bridge tool, it's not going to work. You see, if I click in the viewport, nothing happens. And that's because you can't bridge across symmetry with symmetry on. Now, you can go ahead and make your selections. So, I could select these polygons. Maybe I want to add those down there. Okay. And then if I just turn off symmetry, I can turn on the bridge tool and then just click and everything will work fine. So just a note, you can use symmetry with your bridge tool, but if you're bridging across the symmetry, you will have to actually drop the symmetry before you can create the bridge. Now in this case, I don't want these kind of funky interior polygons still existing, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on that remove polygons, and now it's going to give me just a solid piece of geometry without any weird internal polygons going on there. All right, so that I think works out pretty well for that. I am going to go ahead and just make one more smaller bridge down here, and again, just to make it easier, I'm going to turn symmetry on. I'll also make sure that I select the same polygons on both sides, and then I'm going to turn symmetry off, go to bridge, and let's go ahead and set this time to linear and click and attach those. And then I'm going to drop the tool and turn my symmetry back on. All right, so now I've started to create something out of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a few extra little details just to review some of the tools that we've looked at. I'm going to start just by creating a loop here, and shift and the left arrow to get the next loop over, and I'm going to create some beveled insets here. So you can just click and drag to create bevels. Now one thing that we hadn't looked at with the bevels that I want to show here very quickly is the ability to use profiles. So I'm just going to mouse over here and press 0 on the numeric keypad so I get all of my bevel options open. And if I open up profiles, you'll see that I have a number of different outlined shapes. And what these will do is create a series of bevels that will mimic this shape instead of just having this flat inset. So if I click on one, you'll quickly see what's going on. So you can see here I've got now that inset. Now that one's kind of going the wrong way, not really what I'm looking for. So I can try a few of these, and you can just click through them, which is what's nice, and you don't have to commit to one of them in order to keep checking them. So let's say I want to do, I kind of like that one. It's fairly simple. Oops, except see it gives me a funny overlap here. So that's all right though, because we can relatively easily go in and clean that up. So now what I want to do, since I've got that bevel done, is I'm going to drop the tool and then just press B again to get the bevel tool up, just because I want to show you something here. Is this is going to remain active even after you drop the tool, and it will have the ability of impacting other tools that you use. And if you don't know that that's doing that, that can be problematic. So you want to make sure that you kind of click in open space here, and that will deselect a profile. So now I won't have any profiles attached if I do any continued bevels. All right, so moving on here, let's go ahead and do just a little bit of cleanup, which is an important part of modeling. And what I've got here here is I have a few edges that are just kind of running back here that are too much. So if I double click on an edge and just hit the backspace key, you'll see it will actually delete that entire edge, but it will keep the continuous polygons. So it will not impact the flow of my geometry. So I did that with the next one there as well. And I think now we're getting a bit more to where we were looking for. Yeah, so something like that. And I can do the same thing over here. So I've just got a couple of extra rows of polygons that are just off in space here, not helping me. So let's go ahead and, oops, helps if I select the right one. Double click on that one, hit backspace. And then same thing here, double click on this one and hit backspace. And now I've deleted those extra rows of edges without impacting the geometry, because it's just going to remove those edges and attach the polygons that were adjacent on either side. So there you go. So now I've created a little bit of a nice inset there without having to do more than a single bevel operation. So I always like things that can save you time like that. And let's do the same kind of thing down the middle here. I think what I'm looking for here is, this is kind of a cockpit of a spaceship. So I'm going to go ahead and bevel that up and then look at a little bit of a rounded profile. And one thing to note is when you're using profiles, you no longer have control over the inset. So you can see if I click and drag on this red box, it's not doing anything, because the profiles by definition are a series of insets. All you have control over now is the actual shift amount, so how far that will extend from the surface. So I don't want to go too far out, maybe something like that. And then I'm going to do something similar here just with these front polygons. And let's go ahead and just click and pull these out. Now you got to be careful also, because if you pull too far, you can see now we're getting this this crossing over and the polygons are overlapping. So I want to go just to right there, where I can see that now my my polygons aren't overlapping, but now we've got a series of kind of nice arced, rounded bevels. And just as far as good housekeeping goes, I want to go here and check and make sure that I have my my profile now deselected so that I continue to work. All right, so now you can continue on and use a lot of the polygon tools that we've already looked at. Like for example, if I wanted to take and make some plating over here, I'm just going to take and select a group of polygons right here, and I'm going to start just by copying them. Now I could just paste these here into the same position, but that can be problematic if I if I want these to not move, and I'll get polygons in the exact same place, and it's difficult to select one group of polygons from a separate group if you have them occupying the same space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide these polygons, and there's some operations that are good to know, and H is the hide tool, which will hide anything you have selected. Conversely, Shift H will hide everything but your selection, which can also be useful. And then I'm going to paste in those polygons I had, so just Control V or Command V on a Mac. So now I have these these polygons here in this place, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my deform tools, and I'm just going to use the push tool, which is down here in the deforms, and what that will do is it will just push those polygons outward. So you see I'm pushing them out of space, and now if I press U, that is the unhide command, and that has to do with if you've hidden either the selected or the unselected items, U will always unhide everything. So that's good to know. Now you can see here that something happened, and that's that I didn't get my symmetry going on. So what I'm going to do here, I want to show that you can fix this fairly easily. You can see that I still have my polygons overlapping, so the push tool did not work on my symmetry, which will occasionally happen. So in order to clean that up, what I'm going to do is just double click on kind of the main body here and hide that. And now I've got these polygons right here which are not symmetrical with anything. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut those out, and then I'm going to turn my symmetry off for the moment, and then I'm just going to select this, Shift V to turn on symmetry, and just click apply, and now I have stuff on both sides. I can press U to unhide my existing stuff and then turn on my symmetry again, and I should just be able to go and select one side and the other side is good. So just to finish this part off here, I'm going to use the thicken tool, which will give me, instead of just a sheet of polygons, will give me a little bit of some plating. And then I'm going to go in here and just do a little bit more detail with a bevel that I'm going to pull out a little bit, and then maybe in a little bit, and then inset just a little bit. So I get a little bit more, something interesting there. All right, so, you could continue on this way, and this is a good way to kind of start doodling and blocking things out in 3D space. You can use these tools on any of the just basic standard shapes, or you can use them in existing scenes. So if I go up here to our interior scene organize, which is the one that we had organized in the last chapter, I could do something similar here with this. So let's go ahead and very quickly here, I'm just going to make a few pillars that will kind of attach floor to ceiling, and just give us a little bit more separation of space between this back area and the front hologram room thing. So in order to do this easily, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look at my top view. And if you look in the top view here, you can see that we have kind of these polygons that, if I select that layer, polygons that overlap. Now, this is going to give us some problem because I also have polygons in this section underneath. So what I'll do is just hide those temporarily. I can right-click and drag around, press H to hide those, and now if I'm looking in the top view, I just have the polygons themselves. So if I select straight through the top view, you'll see what that does is it actually selects the top and the bottom at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bridge these pieces together. So let's go down here to bridge, and I'm just going to click to turn on the bridge. I'm going to turn my segments down to 0. And I want to make sure that everything is looking good. Looks like I've actually overlapped a little bit here. And I've gone over that edge, which I don't want to do, so I'm going to undo that. And I'm just going to make sure I'm selecting just those polygons there, and I should see 16 polygons selected. You can see here in the orange. And then I'll go ahead and bridge that again, and then just click. And we want to make sure remove polygons is turned on. We don't want any extra segments. And you can see here we have a little bit of an error, but all this is actually a texture error. So what I'm going to do is just create a loop around here and press the M key. We'll get into materials in a future chapter, but I just want to call this pillars. And this will now give it its own material, and you can see that that goes away. It was just trying to attach the material from the bottom to the material on the top, and there really wasn't any way to cleanly do that. So now let's very quickly go through here, and that already got my left and right sides. I'm going to add just a couple more through here into a couple of these open spaces. So right here, I want to do the same thing. We'll just go on, click bridge, and click, and then I will drop the tool, select both of the loops around here, press M, and apply the pillars material to all of those. And now I've created some nice separation between my back space and my front space. I could continue on doing some bevels with some profiles to add a little bit more interest to these and make them less blocky, but I'll leave that up to you because all of these same tools and techniques are going to apply from model to model, and it's good to just move through and practice them as you go. So that does it for now just kind of applying the basic modeling tools, and we'll start looking at some other tools that you have for making your modeling workflow a little bit easier. That does it for this one. Thanks, and I will see you in the next lesson.